Yeah. Yeah. So are you able to see my portal, azure.com?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So let me go to this ADF data factory, open Azure Data Studio, data factory. So see here in the Azure data factory, so there is something called data flow. So data flow is nothing but a visually transformation activity. So where you can uh, transform the data with all the codeless transformations. Okay. So if you remember that in the SSIS, if you are working SSIS or if you are knowledge, there is something called data flow, right? In the SSI as well, right? What do you do in the data flow? You transform the data using different kinds of transformations, right? In the same way, here also you have the different transformations are available for the codeless transformation. Okay, so all the data flow, whatever you have created, this will be kind of a another activity. The group of transformations, a group of transformations within the data flow, this becomes an activity in your main pipeline through which you execute that. Okay, so these are all will be executed with the help of, okay, Spark clusters. Okay, so we have Databricks Spark clusters which does this execution. Okay, so Spark clusters, usually it's a MPP architecture, so we'll discuss when we go to the Spark. So that's what drives this execution of the data flow. Okay, and coming to the real-time implementation, so when the data is very less or based on the requirement, we go for the data flow. Okay, otherwise in most of the cases, data transformation being handled either with the SQL, usually which we do in the SSIS, and otherwise we do with the uh, Databricks PySpark code or Databricks code. Okay, so there are very limited number of cases where we do data flow. Okay, but it's a good thing to understand what is that and how does it occurs. Okay, so let me go to the pipeline. Okay, I'll create a pipeline. You just understand what are the various transformations which has some of the important properties, and try to do some of the examples. That should be enough. Okay, uh, so this has the data flow. All right, now here what I try to do is, first I will there is something, a movie database. Okay, a movie database which is there in one of the web API. Okay, I will try to get the data, store in my ADLS. All right, store in my ADLS, then I will take that as source and do series of transformations. All right, and just before the session I did one of the same example. I'll try to show that. And let me see that copy activity. First what I will do, I'll say copy activity, copy data. Loads movie state, I'll see. Okay, now see here, I'll say go to the source. I'll create a new data set. Okay, which will get the data from the web. Okay, click on new. And whenever you get the data from web, you have something called HTTP. With this, so I wanted to cover this as well. So click on HTTP, continue. Okay, so in the HTTP, I have something called CSV data. Okay, so if you see that HTTP data, CSV data which is uploaded into this, and this is the data. Are you able to see this data? Movie, title, zoner, year, rating, Rotten Tomato. Okay, these are all the movie database which you have. Okay, now what we are trying to do is, for every year, whatever the rating it's giving, we are trying to find out the rating of that. Okay, so what is the rating? We'll determine the rank for every movie based on the year and the genre. Okay, you know that, right? Genre. So what is genre? A drama, it can be comedy, it can be thriller, it can be action, right? So these are IMDb. If you remember, if you see, if you know that the IMDb, it gives the rating, right? all the rating. So same way, this has movies database, which I wanted to get this data, CSV data, and I want to store this in a data lake. All right. Now click on this. So I'll say ds http movie data. Okay. Now click on this linked service new. Okay. I'll click on this lc http data. All right. Now see here, what is the base URL you wanted to give? So I'll give the base URL. This is the base URL. Okay, authentication type, it will be anonymous. Okay, anonymous in this is publicly available. You can access it. Are you with me?
Yes.
Yeah. So test connection. Create. Now I created a, what did I create? A linked service I created. Now related URL also will be same. And first row has header. Yes, first row has header. Yes. Now click on OK. Now my source is done. So if you are from the programming background, you know, like get, post and all. So I'll see the, I'll make it as a get data, right? Now preview. Linked service is this, related URL is this. Now why it is hiding? First row has a header. Both are same. That's fine. Let me see what happens. Now sync data set. In the sync data set, I will choose, I created a data source column, DS movie data. I'll show you this. I'll create data lake, which is CSV, right? So something called movie is there. I'll select that movie. I created a movie. If I don't create a movie also, I can write a directory name here, then that will be created. Okay. If you are giving a directory which is not existing, so then what happens? The directory will be created dynamically, as I said in the earlier cases, right? Now, first move is treated, row header. Okay. Right. Now, let's see. Let's validate this. It's validated. Now click on debug. Where's filling? Get method is filling. Okay, 1 second. There's no related URL, I feel. Go to source, open it. Why this is deactivating? Okay, this connection is good.
The related URL is mandatory.
Yes, yes, yes. 1 second. I did yesterday only, just before the session. It's working fine. Pen. Okay, related URLs I did not give. Okay. So let me go to this movies data. Cut this sample. Yeah. Now validate it. Debug this. Some says in the base URL, relative URL, in the base URL, there will be a kind of a what is a root kind of URL. From there we have multiple files. Then you can select in the relative URL. Okay, so as I was saying, in one of my previous application, I had some data which is spread across multiple web URLs as well. So that also I made is a dynamic. And if you remember that dynamic application I created, sorry, the dynamic table I created, in the dynamic table I created something like web source, and I gave the URLs also in the source. So that also I made dynamic. The same way you can do this as well, the dynamic. So I'll say storage account.
So in config table, you are putting the whole URL
Yes,
as a column
yes,
value, right?
yes, you're right.
Okay.
So in the movie I have, so movie, so I created 834. So this is a sample which I created, and the sync, I have this one, the movie, and I have target, right? Let me preview the data. Okay, so all this data which is coming over here. And one thing I wanted to show you here, say suppose, okay, I did that. Let me go this sample debug. See here, I gave a file name over there. Okay, now I gave the file name, and see here, 8:37 a.m. movies.csv, which is created. Okay, when I did not give a file name, it took some random file name, right? So that's I forgot to give at the time. So I gave this. Now it's working fine. Now this is how you get the data from the HTTP. So this is also one of the important thing in the real time when you try to do that. Okay, so base URL, relative URL, as I said. So if you have which actually exec the data, it's kind of a source, and this relative URL kind of a subset of the base URL. Then you need to give the relative URL. Okay, so relative URL is to the source resource that contains data. When this property is not specified, only the URL that is specified in the linked service definition is used. The HTTP connector copies the data from the combined URL. Okay, so basically what it does, it joins these two URLs and get the data. So that's what I'm saying, right? Base URL is kind of a root folder of kind of I can say that, and relative URL is a subsequent path of the complete URL, right? Because sometimes, say suppose I have a path www dot movies data, okay, slash movies slash, and some file names will be there. Okay, some file names are year wise. So what I'll do, in the base URL I give till movies, in the relate URL I'll give the slash what do you say slash 1950 slash movie 1 slash 1952 slash movie 2 or movie 3, like that. I'll give the adjacent relate URL here. Okay, but here I gave the full in the base URL itself, it's combining these two. So relate URL does not have anything, so it just took base URL and copy the data from there, right? So in the real-time scenario also, some if you have some hands-on lab and all, they might give a URL and try to tell you to load all the files or all the data which is available within that URL, base URL. Okay, so that also can be given. So I'll try to upload a question today, so which has such kind of data. So I have a base URL, and the base URL has multiple files like PDF files, CSV files, so many files are there. So you should be able to load that all the files into ADLS, right? Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay, okay, Raju, are you getting?
Yes, sir. Sir.
And there are very minimal cases where you have that web data. Okay, so you just try to understand how does it work. That's enough. Now copy activity is done. Now what I need to do, I need to do the data flow activity, right? Now I'll go to the data flow here. Okay, so same like in SSIS we have data flow, right? So here also we have data flow here. So here data load movies analysis. Okay, I'm trying to do movies analysis over here. Okay, click on this data flow settings. Okay, now I need to create a data flow here. If you see here data flow, so what is the data flow which I wanted to create? Okay, run on Azure IR. So it is Azure integration runtime. So what it on which IR it works? It works on the Azure integration runtime, auto resolve integration runtime. And compute type we have general purpose memory optimize. So memory optimize, it will be done in the min memory. General purpose you have the general. Okay, so it's kind of a used in the Spark cluster. So you have in the Spark you have some clusters. We'll talk about it when we discuss about the data breaks. Okay, so we have general purpose cluster and memory optimize. So we have general purpose and core count. So core count in the sense the actually how many cores or how many servers you need to process this data loading. Okay, so you need to remember that the data flow uses Spark clusters. Okay, the data flow uses Spark clusters, and based on the Spark cluster, the core count which you need to give, that efficiency of data load takes place. So if you have more data, you'll use more drivers. Now I have very less data, I'll use the basic one. Okay, and you have logging level, verbose, basic, and then verbose in the sense it's a high all the minute level logging it will do. It have basic, so the all the basic things will give. I'll use none, I don't want to do any logging. Okay, and sync properties, if you have like a multiple if you like if you have huge data, so you can do in it can load the data parallelly. Okay, you have staging, so you can be so sometimes it can use the staging also for efficient data loading purpose, right? Now that I did select, now the data flow is the one which is into create. So 845. Okay, I'll show you the what is the data flow which I've created. Okay, I'll take the same data flow, and the parameters I'm not storing any, I'm not sending any parameters. Okay, and one more thing, so if you remember that in this session I created a execute package, and where I can execute a package sorry, pipeline from one pipeline to another pipeline. Okay, so while calling that pipeline from master pipeline, apart from execution, okay, you can also send some parameters to the child pipeline. Okay, that we will see in one of the session. How do you send the parameters to a child activity, sorry, child pipeline. Now the setting is done. Okay, now I selected this. Now let us see how, where does this data flow came into the picture and what I have done here. Okay, so don't get confused, nothing I have done, it's very simple which I have done here. So just before the session I did this. Okay, now if you come here, okay, see here what are the important properties of the source. So whenever you create a data flow, okay, whenever you create a data flow, what is the first thing you need to do? You need to create the source. It itself says that add the source over here. So when you click on this, okay, then all the source properties will be displayed over here. Okay, so here source setting. Okay, so what is the source stream name? So everything is a stream over here. Okay, because the Spark cluster runs this one, so everything is a stream over here. Right now we have the data set type and a data set. What is the data set which you wanted to choose? So what is the data set I choose here? Movie target, right? So movie target is the one which I chose because the movie is the one which I want to capture. So this data I want to capture. On this I wanted to do a series of transformations, right? So hello schema drift. Okay, so what happens here? So whenever you choose this, so even though the what do you say, the schema keep on changing in the source, it will adjust here itself. Okay, so validate schema in the sense whenever you get the data, so it validate the schema. So if there is any issue in the validate data schema, then it will fail. So I'll use the by default option, allow schema drift, and the sampling in the sense it just do the sampling in the sense, say suppose you are modifying the data, you are transferring the data for some of the what do you say, some testing some testing. So instead of the data, instead of whole data, it will take only some sample of the data. Okay, some rows of the data. All right, now see here the source options. So you can ignore this. So if you want to give the, if you want to dynamically access the path, or if you want to give specifically the actual path, you can give here. But already my source has the complete path, so you can remove this. Okay, and here uh, after completion, so no action, delete source files, move, you can do that, right? So you can delete the source files or you can move the files into another locations once you do the transformation. Okay, that you can do here. And projection, so you can see the all the properties of the source here. Okay, the column name, the type, the format, everything you can see here. What is the projection? And optimize, yeah. So optimize is one of the important property, so which has through which you can mention the partitioning. Okay, so the Spark cluster runs this. So Spark cluster is kind of a base of MPP architecture. Okay, so which runs on the multiple partitioning. So you can mention the partitioning over here. Use current partitioning, so default partitioning. You can specify single partitioning, or you can say set partitioning. Okay, so we'll speak about what is round robin, hash, dynamic range, fixed range partitioning. But at the high level, so you know that, right? How does the partitioning works when the data source is getting, okay, and based on the partition mechanism, it will get the particular number of rows and passes to the next level of transformation, right? So we have round robin, you know that, right? Round robin, so it just randomly it gets 1 2 3 1 2 3. Say suppose you have the keys of 1 2 3, three keys you have. So what does it does? So it will take 1 2 3 keys, then again 1 2 3 keys. Okay, so for each partitioning it will take the round robin level. Okay, hash key in the sense it will compute a hash of all the keys. Say suppose you have 1 2 3, like you have column 1 column 2 column 3 have, so it will combine the column 1 column 2 column 3, then it prepares a hash on that. You know that, right? What is hash in the database terminology? In the database general database terminology, what is hash? What is hash? In the data warehousing in detail, you use hash, right? Hash is a combination of all the keys. right? So it combines all the keys, and based on that, it distributes the data. See, the columns values used to form a uniform hash to distribute the values. Rows with similar values are assumed to fall in the same partition. So basically, it combines all the columns. Okay, so column 1 plus column 2 plus column 3. Okay, and based on that, it will set the partitions. Okay, and the dynamic range. So dynamic range is you can give whatever the columns you wanted to give. Okay, based on that, it will give that. And fixed range. So fixed range is another kind of partitioning. So what are the key values are there that you will give? Okay, keys in the sense, what are the distinct column keys that you wanted to give, you can give that. So usually we use round robin or hash or key in the terminology, but here I don't have any data. So I have very less number of data. I'll use the single partitioning. So whenever you choose fixed range and what is the keys, so what it gives, the key column, which one you wanted to choose. So say suppose keys are there. So if I see genre, so what happens, based on the genre, comedy or action, so based on that, the values will be split and it will create those partitions. Okay, if you say fixed, then how many partitions you want to choose. Okay, you can give fixed number of partitions, and based on which condition you want to load the data into which partition, it will give that. Okay, same thing with the hash and all. Based on that, all the keys will be given. So round robin also the same thing. Now I'll say single partitioning. I don't want to use any partition, so I'll choose this. And inspect, so which you can see the data, and data preview. Yeah, so in the data preview, what it does, it is, if you want to see the data, so whenever you want to see the data, preview the data, if you want to debug the data, so you should click on this. Okay, if you see here data flow debug, I click on this. So what happens then, the Spark cluster will start so that it will execute this data flow. So what did I say earlier, it it all runs by the it all executed by the Spark cluster. Okay, so cluster. Okay, now before execution, I need to start the cluster, right? Because the cluster itself executes or drives this execution. So when I say debug, click on OK, then it will, the cluster which is handles this execution, it will run. Okay, it will start, it will be in the start mode. Okay, now there is something called time to live property. Okay, so whenever I start a cluster, for how much time I want to make it live, for how much time I want to make it in a start mode. Okay, that helps this time to live. Say suppose I gave 1 hour. So what happens, for next 1 hour, whatever the things I want to execute, I want to debug the data flow. Okay, so it will be always in the live mode, in the start mode. Say suppose 5 minutes I gave here. Say suppose I gave 1 hour. Okay, and after 1 hour, again I wanted to debug something. So what I need to do, again I need to start the cluster, which takes some time to start. Okay, to avoid that, the time to live property will be used, where I can configure, I can give some of the time, so that for that amount of time, the cluster will be in the start mode. Okay, this is one of the important question related to exam point of view or interview point of view. What is TTL, time to live property? Okay, so which is applicable in some of the technologies as well, we'll talk about it. But you just remember the time to live is the time frame for amount of which the cluster will be in start mode. Okay, so when you configure this, you can avoid multiple restarts of the cluster to save the time, because starting of the cluster takes some time. Are you with me? Are you with me?
Yeah, yes, yes, please.
Okay. So just push back me. So whenever you feel I'm going fast, so I'll slow down. All right. So I click on OK. Now see here, it takes some time to start the cluster. Okay. So when we talk about the data bricks, I'll show you. So what is the cluster? How does it works and all? And Raju, you already work with the data bricks, you said, right?
Yes, Mr.
Okay, so you know that, right? What is cluster? How does it work and all?
Yes, Mr.
Okay, fine. So did you work on the PySpark as well? Python Spark? Did you write any complex logic in the PySpark?
Like we use PySpark for extraction and loading. In between, we use Spark SQL for transformation.
Okay, you use Spark SQL. All right. Got it. So how are you feeling this two classes? Are you feeling that you're learning something new, or are you feeling that you already know all these things?
Uh, like I'm learning some new things. I have
Oh,
hands-on on few things, but I'm learning few things.
okay. So see here. So it takes some time. So by the time I'll show you what I've done. Okay. See here. So movie source I created. Okay. So movie source is in the sense the source itself. And same like in the data flow, you can have any number of sources, right? Say suppose you have 2 3 files, you want to join that, then you want to filter that, right? It may be anything. Like in the SQL, what do? You can have any number of tables. You can join them, you can filter them the same way here also. And the source can be anything. Okay, the source can be a file, source can be a table, anything it can be. You can achieve all the transformations logic so within in the data flow itself, right? But some of the complex logic you may not be able to do. So that's how you, what do? You'll go for the SQL, or you go for the Python Spark code, so based on your requirement, right? So here I did. Then if you see here, optimize, inspect. So you have movie, title, zoner, year, rating, rotten tomato. So here, say suppose I want to select only some of the columns to next level, next transformation. Okay, then for that you have something called select. You cannot just select only some of the columns like LRER in LRER SSIS. Okay, in SSIS you can select only columns, right? But here you have explicitly used some uh, transformation known as select. Okay, say suppose you have something called select. So if I have this, click on this plus, then it gives all the transformations which are available. So you have multiple inputs and outputs: join, conditional split, exist, union, lookup. So these are the multiple inputs it takes, right? And schema modifier. Schema modifier in the sense it can decrease the data, decrease the columns, increase the columns. It can be anything, right? So derived column, select, aggregate, surrogate key, pivot, unpivot, window, rank. And apart from that, you have format. You can flat the data, flatten the columns and all. You can parse the columns. And row. Say suppose you have row modifier, then you have filter, sort, alter. Destination, of course, the final destination will be sync. So here I'll say select. So what happens when I say select? You can select any number of columns. So what are the column names you want to do here? Okay, same way I select. So still it's running. See, it's taking so much of time. So that is the reason you should use proper TTL value based on your requirement. All right. Now here I click on select. Okay. Okay, now it started. The cluster is ready. The session ID is this. Now here all the column names is given. Say suppose you want to what to say, you want to select only some column names, you can select, or you can remove some of the column names, and you can rename the column name. See here what I have done. There is a spell mistake in one of the column name, rotten. So what I have done, I just corrected the spelling mistake and I gave the proper name over here. All right, that is about select. Then the filter is very simple, so simple what it does. So the simple, whatever the criteria you want to give, you can give the criteria. And here you have expression builder. So expression builder is one of the important one, where you can build all the expressions. So the expression which I build is year is 1920 greater than 1920. So what I want to filter, I want to consider only the movies which are released after 1920. Now, if you remember that the year is in the string data type, right? So first I am converting into the to integer, then I'm doing that into the, I'm filtering based on the year now here. That's about the filter. Then what I've done, I added one more column known as derived column. You know what is derived column? What is derived column?
Deriving a new column from the existing one.
Yes, yes. It's kind of a computed column. Say suppose you are computing a column from the available columns, it will be derived column. Say suppose you have A and B, you want to add A and B, and result set is C. Then C will be a derived column. So derived column is normal regular term which we use in the ETL and BI terminology. So here also what I'm doing, I am trying to create a derived column based on the available column. Okay, now you see what I'm trying to see here. If you see here the zoner, what is the zoner here? Action, adventurous, scientific and fantasy. Okay, socio scientific fiction and all here. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, it has multiple zoners. So here, so if you give a one name, one of the movie name, it is adding multiple zoners because it is falling into all these zoners. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is instead of taking all these zoners, I wanted to take only the primary zoner. That means the first one, action, here adventure, here only comedy is there, that's fine. Only one is there, that's fine. I don't need to do any computation, but I have multiple computation, multiple zoner values. I wanted to take only the primary column. It's very simple in the SQL. What you'll do, you'll find wherever this pipe symbol is there, and before the pipe symbol, whatever the content is there, I wanted to capture that. Right? It is very simple. So the same thing, I added a column known as primary zoner. Then see here how the expression has been built over here. So what I'm trying to do, first I'm trying to see where is the pipe symbol, right? Where is the pipe symbol? I'm trying to find out. Okay. And if the pipe symbol is greater than 1, okay, that means if you are finding the pipe, that means if you are having more than one zoner. So what I'm trying to say, left of zoner minus 1. Okay, left of wherever the pipe symbol I found, I want to take left of that minus 1. That means say here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sixth one is a pipe symbol. So 6 minus 1 I am doing, that is becomes 5. So I want to capture only first 5 characters over here. That's what I am doing here. So first I am finding where is the pipe symbol is there, then the minus 1. Pipe symbol is there is here minus 1. Then the first fact left of string comma 5. Then what happens here? What is the left function do? Left function will do, it will capture the number of characters which is computed or which is given from the given string. So which I am doing here. So you know IIF functionality, right? If functionality, it will check the condition. If the condition is passed, it will take this or this. So if is one of the important expression which usually you use even the activities also. So I took here zoner. So I'm trying to compute this one. And if it's nothing is there, pipe is not the zoner. If you remember that the comedy has only one value, then in that case, it will take only one value. If it is found, if it's finding this pipe symbol, it will compute this one and it will evaluate. So that's what I did here. Primary zoner. Okay, I derived a column, and based on this primary zoner only, I wanted to do the expression.
So PC, I have one question.
Yeah.
So if you are writing the expression,
Yeah.
to regular expression to pick up the values.
Yes.
So are we doing the testing here itself? Is there any option?
No, unfortunately, no testing. So sometimes you can see data preview, but no, you cannot do testing unless you complete this and debug this.
And run the whole package.
Yes,
okay.
yes. And then I have something called window function. So where I will build the rank over here. Okay. Now I have primary zoner and everything. And based on the zoner and year, I wanted to perform the rank over here. Okay. Now here simply what I did is, so rank, okay, rank based on the zoner and year, okay, sorting on the rotten tomato column. Okay, so what is the Rotten Tomato? It has Rotten Tomato has some values over here. Okay, because usually IMDb gives some values, right? Same thing. Rotten Tomato also gives some values, 80, 63 and all. So based on the value, I wanted to give the rating. So what I did here, primary zoner over primary zoner reindeer and sort this. Okay. And what is the computed column? What is the column I wanted to capture over here? I wanted to do the rank. Okay. So I want to capture the rank over and sort by. So you know what is over and sort in the SQL? If you remember the SQL. Sudhakar, you know the SQL
Over.
function? Yeah, you know that, right? Select,
Over
yeah,
group by
select,
group.
yeah, exactly. Select rank over primary junior comma year order by the column name. The same thing it's giving. It gets the rank based on the these columns and compute this. Okay. Now here the data preview is there, and here the last one will be sync. So sync is what? Sync is the actual the target data set where the data will be loaded. So incoming string will be the window, and sync is the data set type. Now I created the data set for the target where I am loading the actual target here. The product end file. I took this file and I want to give the data over there. Okay. Now once it is done, so what I will do, I will load the data. What I do, so once it is done, I will just load the data. So all the execution will be done. So let me debug this, which I created. Then you will see how does it works. Then what happens? The series, the data will be copied into the EDLS. That will be taken as source. Then a series of transformations will be done. Then finally the data will be pasted into the target based on all the transformations whatever we have written. See here data flow. When I click on this data flow, okay, see here what happens. It will show all the data flow logic which is passing over here. Now which is sync, which is all the queued. You can see all the data over here. All are queuing only now. So you can see data flow logic, how it is passing from one to one, and how the status is there. Everything you can see over here. Give
So
me a minute.
Purushottam, can you please show us how this window is came? Once again.
Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry, you're saying
No,
something?
no. How you are going into this window?
Okay, this execution is there, right? So this execution is happening, right? So here there is inspect. Okay,
Okay.
so details, the same thing, right? When I say copy activity
Uh,
also, I was showing this. So click on this details. So what
mhm.
happens? All the details will be shown how the data is flowing from one place to another place. See here, it's showing everything. Okay, 100 rows are there, only one partition. What is the stage time? And you click on this. Then here 100 rows total partition one, the time, then the filter. So filter, I created more than 1920, greater than 1920, only 87 came into picture. Okay, total column 6. Now derived column added one more column, so it is become 7. Okay, then the window also there is one more column added, rank, so the 7 became 8, 87 column. So and the complete, the finally it will be sync. So if you see here, where did I do? Did I do in the product? Yeah. 921 97. So this is the movie analysis CSV which I computed, and you can see here something called rank here. So if you see here rank 1, rank 2, rank 3. So for every year based on the zoner I created. So this is a zoner: comedy, children, animation, adventure. So based on this one, I computed the first value as zoner, and based on the year and zoner, I computed the final rank. Getting? So that's how you can create a series of transformations and do the things. All right, and that's how you can see the computation power also. And usually they ask like, what is the difference between activity and the data flow? So data flow is a series of transformations which will be executed by the Spark cluster, whereas and which works as one of the activity in the pipeline. Okay, and whereas pipeline is a series of activities, and the activity can be anything like a data flow as well. All right, are you with me? Are you with me? Everybody got it?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's all for today. And try to see this and try to do some of the